Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So here we are again, another parable from the series Jesus of Parables as we go chapter by chapter these Sundays. But this one is a little bit different feel to it. There's an element of urgency behind it. And not so much on Jesus' part, but the urgency on the part of his audience who wants a quick solution. And when we hear this parable, we catch the sense of the question that Jesus is addressing: why is there evil in the world, and why isn't God cleaning it up sooner rather than later? So when you remember, if you remember a parable from the last week, we got reminded today. These are the parables about farmer that I don't find that smart. We talked about different kinds of soil and just the waste of putting seeds everywhere, even in places where the farmer probably knew were not the best, but he would put the seeds there anyway. And we talked about the grace last week, about how God wastes his grace. And today we have another waste, you could say, because another weird approach to farming, because I was taught that when you put these seeds down and they grow, you want to take out the weeds so all the nutrients can go to the good seed, to the vegetable you want to grow. You don't want to have weeds there and take up the space and sun and nutrients. And yet this farmer says that's exactly what you need to do. And we come later to understand that the wheat would be destroyed and could be mistaken and so on. So this gospel is a God. So we had a waste of grace, and now we are wasting the nutrients for everybody. We are wasting the love and care. And this one is more about the timing. So Jesus' verse for us today is that consequences are not coming, are not quick in coming, that the wheat and weeds are bound up together. They need to grow together. And apparently it would be inevitable, if we want to take out one, that we would destroy the other, the roots and the environment where they live. So now it can be simple that, the word is just meant for us not to be a bad seed, as though we can control that. And this could be, and yet I find myself really wondering this morning about this whole mess of weeds and weed before me. I'm aware that people in our gospel want a quick solution. It sounds perfect. It's good and bad, and you take out bad, and then good is here, and it's simple as that. In Jesus' time, people were very much like today. Have Pharisees who wanted to avoid being associated with anyone who was not completely kosher. Zealots wanted to use violence to smite Romans. And then self-righteous who were ready to stone a woman in adultery, and then to ridicule Jesus anytime they disagreed with him. Everybody had the best approach to how to take out the evil. And that's why really the question this morning with this gospel is not why and how and when we take out the evil, but the question is who. And the answer is, it's not you and it's not me. It's none of us. It's going to be God. So Jesus says he introduces this servant solution, and it's our tendency so we have two solutions how to deal with evil in the world, or how to deal with this gospel. One is the servants want to take out the weeds, and then the farmer solution is different. First one is eager and wants to imagine, they just want to use their enthusiasm and just go out there and make a decision and be on their way. But he says, no, let them grow. So master's solution requires few things to know, and that is, first one, for his servants to recognize that they're clueless, that they don't know what they're doing, that they're not equipped enough to do that. And they probably worked in master's field for a while. They probably worked for him for a few years. They've learned, and they feel like they know. They feel like they can distinguish between the weeds, and they're ready to do the work. But he's simply saying them, no, don't do it, because you're not ready. You're not able. Sometimes I think we think they spend enough on the farm in the church to be around Christianity long enough and feel like, oh, we know what we're doing. We know what are the bad seeds. And this is a humbling point today, because what Jesus tells us is that you're clueless. You don't know. You think you know right from wrong. You think you have the answers to everything. This is the reminder that we are not to judge. Perhaps the word for us is that simply we don't have the ability to discern good from bad. At least we don't have this ability to do it in one another. And especially in this time and this place, I think this message is really important. It calls for humility, because to admit that I am not God, I can't say what eventually is going to be the truth, and the consequences and the truth takes time to reveal itself. That takes some humility. In today's world, people from one political spectrum can almost never hold a civil conversation with another's. We're very quick to call the other side evil. And what would it look like if we were to follow Jesus' offers to us today, grow alongside each other? What would it look like? We do have religious communities and Christians denominations who do think they have the right choices and right answers to everything, and trying to impose on everybody else. And then the other side feels like they're in right too, and this is not Christian. There is not enough love in there. So perhaps, in fact, we could hurt each other beyond repair if we were trying to just take the weeds out ourselves. And anytime I hear the discernment between who is going to go to heaven and hell, my only answer is like, I'm grateful that you're not making a choice. Who am I talking to? I'm grateful that God will decide. And that's what this simple parable is about today. God is the one. And if you go back in the history of how often different religions made mistake and how many people the church burned on a stake because of different approach, because of witch hunt, because of different opinions on the science, if we just waited long enough and let God decide, I think we'll be in a better place. So the first one is very, it says you're clueless. And the second message from this is be patient. Be patient with one another. The servants, you see the weeds growing today and think they must be removed. And the master looks ahead to the harvest. He is not right now in this moment, in the heat of the moment. This is wrong, this is right. He says, wait, there will be harvest. Give it a chance. Give everybody the chance. Let them grow next to each other. And at the end, I will decide what will happen. And in that message, in being patient, he tells us, cultivate the good. Don't be so quick to focus what's wrong and what I need to take out and who needs to go out. The just intermingling of good and evil and our difficulty in separating them. You see, it doesn't mean that just that I'm good and you're bad, or that I've got to be patient with you. Remember the last Sunday when we talked about Paul, and when I wanted to send him to therapy, when he says, I can will what is right, but cannot do it. I know what is right, and I'm incapable. So there is in us the good and evil. There is in us this place where we know what's right, and the moments where we're not able to do it. And how different are we in those moments from all the other weeds in there? So that's why the master solution, patience and concentration on the growth of the good, is the best. If it was time right now to pull out all the wheat and separate them from the wheat, are you sure which pile you would end up in? We are graciously granted time for amendments in our lives, for forgiveness, for more reparation, for more love. He is slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. So see, when I look at this parable, it's not just me giving chance other people to grow and make it all the way to the harvest. there is a moment when I can realize there is a chance given to me. When you have a picture of the Last Supper and you think who was in the upper room with Jesus, there were a bunch of weeds there. And maybe everybody was a weed. One had already agreed to betray Jesus while sitting with him at the table. Another one would shortly deny even knowing him. And the rest of them was going to desert him in the Garden of Gethsemane. And yet he gathered them around him and called them friends. What a picture of God's patience. His patience with evil, his patience with failure, his patience with you and me. When we gather around the table, hopefully one day again the same, we come not because all the weeds in our lives have been pulled out, far from it. We come because he's patient with us. He's giving us the chance. He's far more patient with us than we are with one another. And he gives us time. So, in the midst of this parable on how we deal with evil in the world, I think there is a word on how we're dealing with the evil in ourselves. And if you're like me, you probably just want to get over with it and just take out the weeds of your life. And because it's source of great frustration and anger when we judge ourselves of what we're able to do and not able to do. And then, like Paul, he says, I get frustrated and because I can't do better. And I know I want to do better, but I can't. Be patient with yourselves. Concentrate on growing and cultivating the good. And that's Master's solution for us. That's what Jesus is telling us today. I am patient. Be patient with yourselves. Focus on what is good in your hearts. Cultivate that. And let God be the judge. Just focus on how much more love you can spread around you. And in this time, when we're so quick to distinguish in this world between evil and good, be the ones who are going to cultivate the good and appreciate God's patience and acknowledge the humility that God is the one who has more mercy and love for us than we have for ourselves. Amen.